Hello everybody, it is Ebontis back with another weapon tour, and on this one we're going to be talking about the longsword. Now, I know I did some of the other ones I've done kind of out in the wild because some of them are going to be a bit simpler for me to just kind of demo a couple of moves and kind of explanations about how they work. This one's got an interesting little mechanic to it. So, one of the things about the longsword is your spirit gauge. Now, you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner I've got a white outline on the sword, and then I've got a yellow section in the middle. When I do standard attacks that do not use my right trigger, these will actually fill up that gauge. You'll notice the fade slash, for example, nice one to get a little backpedaling so you can have some space. Even something along the lines of like back up, and then you could even do a spirit thrust in, jump. And you'll notice I can actually use my outside spirit gauge even though it's not all the way to the max. So your goal with the longsword is to build up that spirit gauge and then change to the next color of tier. So notice how it says combo to raise gauge color. When you do the spirit roundhouse, it changes that to another color on the outside. So here again, we'll go overhead, overhead. You can do that one. You can do the fade slash, whatever you want to do. Then once you've got enough meter to go through the full combo, when we go for the roundhouse, now we're up to yellow. So we're getting to the fun stuff. When you get to crimson, you've got a full different type of combo, because this is just your standard overhead combo. 1, 2, 3, overhead slash, crescent slash, just kind of a back and forth combo. Then if you want to go for a different combo, you've got your B, which is going to be your thrust, to a rising slash, thrust, rising slash. Pretty simple combo, but maybe if you got something a little smaller, maybe you want to try and go a little bit vertical with those shots, you can. And then the fade slash, still not using the right trigger, is going to pull you back a little bit. Now you'll notice the yellow outline is slowly pulling back. So your goal to pull yourself to that next level is to watch that gauge and then make sure you finish that full Spirit Blade combo and get it all the way to red. Now you'll notice my weapon is straight up red. So now we have the crimson attacks. So I still have the other things like the fade slash. It's there. The difference is now I have your crimson slash. So this red one, a little more fancier. So you can go through the full crimson slash combo pretty quickly. Then you can get into some fun stuff. So if you go to the spirit thrust, climb up in the air, and then when you land, if you hit right trigger, you'll do that spirit release, and that'll fully clear that level out. Actually took me down 2, to be honest. But that full spirit release is how you get the overhead slam and then the big flourish afterwards. So I'll show you one more time by building it up a couple levels, and then we'll go actually out for the fight. But I wanted to show you guys this here just to show you kind of the main pieces behind it. You're still pretty nimble, like you're running around with a pretty long sword, like a very extended halberd, but your mobilities are reasonable. Definitely not slow and clunky like some of the other ones you'll get to. So you've got some mobility still. And then as you swing and build up your meter. And don't forget, notice like it's really easy to get a lot of slashes done, but then also kind of really take out the sharpness on your weapon. So that'll be something to watch. Also some of the long swords, if you can find ones that get to that blue sharpness, you're going to be able to do even more damage. So let me get back to the red category here. So now you'll notice I have the spinning crimson slash. And then I also have, so we'll do this one, this one, this one. You got your rising slash, your thrust, foresight perhaps. Everything has a little bit more flair when you're in this mode. But if you go for the sheath, so you'll go for an attack, and then you'll sheath it, and then if you attack, there's the thrust, come on down, and then if you hit trigger on the way down, I'm going to do the full flourish, and that's just aiming it right direction is all I was missing there. But that's the general idea, and then also, of course, when you do the wound attacks, they're pretty legit too. So overall, it's a very fun weapon. Your goal is just to watch that meter. Anything with the right trigger is going to like build it up. And also notice I can use like the spirit gauge, charge it up 2, 3, full roundhouse. And that's something you can do as well. So let me see if I can get this thing completely emptied out. We'll go for a thrust. It's going to take us up in the air for a slam. And then I'll do the full flourish afterwards. All of those are just a mass amount of hits. And you're going to clean up pretty much everything on whatever side of the monster you're looking at. But if I go for a full spirits charge, 2, 3, 4, I can go to the next color straight away. So you can do the full hits if you've got the time, But if you think it's almost easier just to go straight to your higher one with the charge, all the way there for the roundhouse, and then we're back to red. And even if that's low, special sheath. Still not entirely sure why that always hits behind. I know somebody will probably know better. But again, you got the thrust, you've got your climb, and then every one of those hits to follow. Biggest thing is probably just going to be aiming, but I swear this little targeting dummy, not the easiest thing to aim at. So what I'm going to do now is go fight the Chata Cabra, I think that's his name, and I'll give you an example of what it's like, but that's probably the best way I can actually show you some of the stuff to, for one, give you the combos to watch on screen, talk about some of the moves, and then again, you can even do that Spirit Thrust with nothing there. There's just not as much to it. So if I come up here and do the same thing, well, I'll do this, and I'll still get the breaker on the landing, and you can actually, this one's actually a pretty cool move. So you do this, you think you're going to get attacked, and you can come back in. So that foresight slash will use some of your spirit, but again, if you're going for building up your spirit gauge, you're like, all right, so I'm doing this, then I'm going to go for a charge. And then here you go, 1, 2, 3, full spin, different level. But then if I want to go for trying to build it back up, but maybe, again, come back, that's a way, you'll use up the meter that you've got with that foresight slash, but that might save your butt if something's coming down on you. So if you do this, it's going to use the meter up, as I was saying. But that moment to actually pull back, let it swing, maybe come back in for something stronger, definitely going to be a bit more fun. So that kind of covers the moves. Now let me show you an example. I know this one's going to be a little longer tutorial because of that, but anything with these extra modes, I do want to go a little deeper on for you, so hopefully this helps, and let's go fight a monster. Alright, so as with some of the other fights, I do want to show you what just kind of the sneak attack is capable of, since this guy's kind of a neutral enemy. A couple quick attacks, and again, so our goal here is, again, that build-up of our meter. So again, trying to catch them off guard, and this is one we're really having the time to build up that meter. Is going to take a little bit of practice when it comes to the monsters themselves. When you know what the monster is going to do, it's going to be a little bit easier, but you might have to resort to some interesting attacks as you're going through, and take the moment to go for a wound attack, really break something there. You actually got to land the hits, unfortunately. Same as that one where he's got the big tongue swipe. And this is one that's a little hard. If you go for the charge, you can kind of slowly walk. And there we go. So now we're in Crimson mode. Everything is going to be a little quicker, a little bit more flair. Gonna go for the thrust, jump. Aw, got me. Thrust, jump. See, and you gotta actually connect. Unfortunately, you will waste, so there's a little bit of bounce to this one. It's not as easy as the training dummy makes it look. Well, just got my clock clean there. So this is where if you can do that fade slash, you can come back in when you're actually ready to go. Nice. Good counter. It's not really a counter, I don't think, but kind of worked as one. So that's one of those focus attacks that I'm able to go on. And that's the big flourish afterwards. So you can unleash a ton of damage when you get all that together. You get your special thrust here. Still just go for a slash all the way down. And again, couple wounds I'm going to take out there. Pretty clean. Same thing here. If you want to go for the special actual sheathing, which is always kind of fun. Thrust again. So it's all about aiming that thrust to try and make sure you can land it right. And I'm just opening wounds left and right on this guy. So you're going to be breaking off parts like crazy, which is fun. Then you can go for this one. Full flourish. So much damage. Just absolutely working him. That's why I was like, the longsword has really good range, really good damage potential once you get those charges done. Some monsters, it's definitely going to be tougher to go for a bigger charge like this. And that's just going to take a little bit of practice, but as you can see, we cooked him pretty hard. So we're going to go follow him a little bit, and we'll chase him down, but he's already on death row. So he's got the little skull next to him. He's doing his little death march. He's probably going to go try and rest, and depending on your status, this is a point to where sharpening is important. As you can see, it's really easy to blow through the sharpness on this weapon, mostly because its potential to really just absolutely put out some crazy damage. And as for something to do when you bring this thing out, there's not anything great. The best thing you could probably do, if you have any charge, would be go for just a full roundhouse just to get it out of the way. And that'll just break a few more things if anything's not broken already. There we go. Wound in the right butt cheek. Sorry in advance. So again, if you can get that position for the roundhouse. Now we're good. We're in crimson mode. And again, you don't have to do this one move. I just enjoy it so much because it looks awesome. But there's plenty of other things you can do. Just your basic thrusts. Quick attacks. Again, you've got the range and he's smaller, but you can see that overhead smash is an easy one. Trying to chop off a tail, kind of work on a higher resting head monster potentially. You really can do a lot of damage. So it's going to take you a little practice to get used to building that one up, finding the right time to lean into the full roundhouse charge, or get 4 swings off. You can do it either way. Building up to that red meter. But then if you can get that timing right, you've got him knocked down, you get the big launch, you get the full Crimson Spirit Unleash. Lots and lots of potential there with this one, and it's a really fun weapon. You feel pretty fast doing it. It feels pretty good. It's not quite as fast as like dual blades, but your swinging potential with this one is drastically different than something like the Greatsword, and still pretty substantial damage potential when you start adding up all the smaller numbers. You're not going to see like the big 170s and 190s that like one Greatsword shot's going to do, but your ability to really just stack everything up with all the combos that start coming together. And again, I'm probably not entirely doing everything. I mean, you've got your special sheath here. Don't know why it turns you around on that one. That's one somebody in the comments will probably know. But overall, if this gives you an idea of like this might be a fun weapon to play, you're not wrong, because it really is a fun one. I've been able to take it far in previous games, and overall it's one I think a lot of people can have fun with because you've got the range to reach up, which is something that not everything's going to do. Like you saw, the short sword and shield doesn't quite have the vertical reach. I can do that overhead slash continuously and say work on the Raydow's tail, for example, and chop it off with a bit more consistency. But remember, when you go look at some of these weapons, you'll also be able to see a little bit more about them, and you actually see if a weapon has a guarding potential or if it doesn't. And that's an important factor if you want to be able to guard or if you prefer to dodge. And that's just a fully different format. So if you come into your tent real quick, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So if you're looking through the different weapons here, you can actually see, for example, the Greatsword has guarding, the Sword and Shield has guarding, the Hammer does not, Hunting Horn does not, Dual Blades none, Guarding none, Gun Lance yes, Lance yes, because you've got your shield. With counterattack, you've got the Switch Axe, which doesn't have guarding, but the Charge Blade does in sword mode. And then none of the ranged options except the Heavy Bow, which has that option, and Insect Glaive. So some people just want to play differently, but I will tell you the longsword, if it's got a little bit of like the skill ceiling to learn building up the spirit gauge, so it's going to be a little bit more effort than say the dual blades, which I covered in a separate video, just building up to demon mode and then just going crazy. But when you get those big flourishes out of the spirit mode, the kind of roll forward and roll back, where that the attack where you kind of bounce back for a second to dodge an attack and then jump back in, it's one of those that has a really nice ballet to the moves, and when they all come together, they really are fun to watch and pull off at the same time, and you're able to do some massive damage to the monsters as you go. There's a lot of cool varieties with this one too, so it's a weapon I definitely recommend having quite a bit of fun with. And it's one I can easily say trying. It's not going to be quite as simple as like swing the big sword or, you know, sword and shield block, but spirit gauge isn't the craziest to understand, and overall definitely a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a like below, leave a comment if there's anything about this that I'm massively forgetting so other people can learn something, because I'm not going to claim to be the be all end all of knowledge. But what I'm trying to do is just help beginners, for one, understand the weapons, and two, learn a few tips along the way from each of these videos. But if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert bell. I've got a ton of Monster Hunter stuff planned to cover for you guys. And then also for you, we've got plenty of other games I've got about and other things. So if you like what I'm doing, subscribe, like, follow, all of that good stuff. Find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Blue Sky, Patreon, and right here. So thank you all. I'll see you soon, and have a good one.